In recent years, Colombia has more and more become a hotspot for digital nomads and backpackers. They flock to this country to enjoy the rich culture, the complex history, soak up the beautiful weather, and of course enjoy the low cost of living. Like so many other countries in the past month, Colombia has just introduced a digital nomad visa. However, there are some misconceptions floating around about this visa. So in this video, I will clear up those misconceptions, introduce the visa to you, and talk about some alternative ways to stay in the country. But before we do that, we will look at Colombia as a destination specifically for digital nomads. If you want to jump right to the visa description, you will find the timestamps down below. So, what's so special about Colombia, you ask? Well, actually, Colombia has a vast amount of things on offer. Visiting Colombia, you could experience unbelievable scenery and lush jungles. Colombia is actually home to 10% of the world's biodiversity. Beautiful beaches, incredible street art, salsa dancing, delicious food, and cutting-edge culinary trends. Plus, you can dive deep into history by visiting sites such as Tierra Adentro and San Agustin. Or you could spend your time in hip cities just like Medellin and Bogota. So in short, Colombia is a traveler's dream. You will never run out of things to do while you are there. So let's look at this country in a little more detail, shall we? Colombia is officially called the Republic of Colombia and is a country in South America. It borders the Caribbean Sea to the north, Venezuela to the east, Brazil to the southeast, Ecuador and Peru to the south, and the Pacific Ocean to the west, plus Panama to the northwest. The country has a very diverse nature and landscapes which offer something to do for everyone. In the middle of the country, for example, you can admire the majestic snow-covered peaks of the Andes. Depending on your fitness level, you could hike them as well. And since it is bordering two seas, the Pacific and the Caribbean, you have no shortage of sandy white beaches and glittering blue water, both to the north and to the west. Or you could discover the vast grasslands, Los Llanos, that Colombia shares with Venezuela to the east. And don't forget diving into the jungle in the Amazon basin, in the south or in the northwest, all the way to the border with Panama. This is a perfect place to discover the country's mind-blowing biodiversity. Speaking of diving, of course, in a country that's surrounded by water, there are plenty of absolutely gorgeous diving spots. And if you're not that much into being underwater, you could always just take a boat and watch out for fantastic marine life such as humpback whales. Language. Colombia is actually home to the second largest Spanish-speaking population in the world. And honestly, not everybody speaks English, so it would make your life a lot easier if you would learn at least some basic Spanish. You could, for example, use a free app such as Duolingo, which I use to brush up on my French skills. Or if you would like to dive deeper into it, there's also the app Babbel. Babbel is a paid app, but it offers the possibility to dive deeper into the language than Duolingo allows you to. Actually, Babbel is how I learned to be fluent in Swedish. And last but not least, there's italki. italki is a fantastic app if you wish to have more conversations. So here you can take private language lessons with a native and, learn to be conversational. If any of those interest you to brush up on your Spanish before you travel to Colombia, I will link them down below. Colombia's currency is the Colombian peso. $1 translates to 4,833 Colombian pesos. And since I talked about the beautiful weather in the introduction, let's talk a little bit about that. Well, Colombia is a huge country, so there are plenty of microclimates in the country, which means that depending on what you need or what your weather preferences are, you can actually kind of choose your location depending on, what you're into. Medellin, for example, is known as the city of eternal spring. Here you have a very comfortable 23 to 27 degrees Celsius all year long. Northern Colombia and the coastal cities like Barranquilla and Cartagena, on the other hand, are very warm and humid. So it really depends on what you're into. Next, let's talk about safety. I feel like we can't have a Colombia video without talking about safety. Well, Colombia has had a very bad image of safety for many years. And this is due to the unfortunate history of drug violence, gang violence, murders, drug cartels, and I'm sure Netflix series like Narcos didn't help. And while Colombia indeed was a very dangerous place, this was around 30 years ago. I'm not saying it's the safest place in the world, I'm just saying the situation has gotten a lot better. What I mean by that is that there are plenty of areas in Colombia where you can feel quite safe. That being said, of course, you still have to take precautions. But then again, I would recommend that you take the same kind of precautions almost no matter where you go. Number one would be, don't walk home alone in the dark, particularly not through dark alleyways. Take a cab, take an Uber. Second, watch your bars and drinks. I feel like as women we are often more aware of this maybe. I hope you are. Ladies, please watch your drinks when you go out. But the same is for guys. Be careful that nobody spikes your drink and, just keep it close and watch it. Don't get super drunk with people you don't know. So, keep your bearings, know how to get home, know where you are. And keep your essentials close to your body. And like the locals say, no dar papaya. Which translates to don't give papaya, but what it means is don't give anything sweet, as in, don't walk around with your fancy phone in your hand, flashing it, showing people that you have something nice that is worth taking. Don't run around with your camera on display. Don't wear super blingy clothes with a lot of labels or, expensive jewelry. Just be understated and, watch out, know your surroundings, know where you are and where you're going and who's around you, who's following you. If you keep those safety precautions in mind, you should be just fine. I hope this doesn't come off like, me being the teacher lady. That's absolutely not my intention. But let's get on to digital nomad must-haves, shall we? As always, internet. Internet is generally widely available and reliable. However, it is most likely not going to be as fast as you might be used to other places. And the stability and reliability kind of also depends a little on where you are. So big cities like Medellin, for example, offer plenty of co-working spaces and cafes that offer free Wi-Fi, and there you can be absolutely sure that you can work online without a problem. And as always, if you stay longer, my suggestion is also to buy a local SIM card so that worst case scenario, you can at least hotspot for yourself every now and then. Infrastructure. Colombia has a vast bus network that connects basically the entire country. So this gives you a possibility to not only travel back and forward for relatively little money, it also gives you the chance to see a lot of the country while doing so. When it comes to public transport in cities, Medellin is actually the only city in Colombia that has a very modern, functioning metro system or subway system. However, Ubers are widely available and very cheap. So if you don't want to take the buses or in Medellin the metro, Uber is always a valid option. Accommodation. Well, if you want to stay in Colombia for an extended period of time, you might want to look into renting an apartment. You can find beautiful modern apartments for a fraction of the cost that it would cost you in cities, for example, in North America. Make sure, however, to research which neighborhoods are safe first. Alternatively, Colombia has plenty of beautiful guest houses, Airbnbs, hostels, co-living spaces. Selina, for example, is a hostel chain that combines hostel/co-living, co-working space for digital nomads and community for digital nomads all over Latin America. That would be an option. However, these are, of course, a little pricier than if you would rent an apartment somewhere. Cost of living. Here I have one tip for you right from the get-go. It is a lot more expensive in Colombia to shop groceries in a supermarket than it is at the local fruit and veggie markets. So if you try to buy a lot of your groceries there, you will significantly reduce your grocery shopping bill. As always, my numbers come from Numbeo, and I have translated them to US dollars, so it is easier to convert and translate for, well, most people, I assume. An inexpensive meal in a restaurant will cost you on average $3.13. A cappuccino will cost you $1.06. A monthly transport pass, should you decide to get one, will cost you on average $25.03. Taxi starting tariff is $1.04, and 1 kilometer of taxi ride will cost you $1.25. Basic utilities for an 85 square meter apartment will cost you on average $61, and monthly internet $21. A one-bedroom apartment in the city center will cost you approximately $235, whereas a one-room apartment outside of the city center will cost you $212. Keep in mind, these are average numbers. I always say that, meaning that, places like Medellin or Bogota will be so much more expensive and smaller villages will be cheaper. If you know where you want to go, if you have an idea of where you'd like to stay, you could go to Numbeo and actually put your exact location in, so you get a more accurate price calculation for the place that you'd like to stay in. So now that we've covered that, let me help you decide where you'd like to stay. Let's talk about where other digital nomads stay and where you can meet them, which places are the most popular. Number one, definitely Medellin, the city of eternal spring. And that is its first pro. Like I've already mentioned in the introduction, Medellin is sunny and around 75 degrees Fahrenheit or 23 degrees Celsius more or less all year long. It is the most modern city in Colombia, and it is also the most popular amongst digital nomads. Medellin actually used to be the most dangerous city in the country, but it is transforming into a modern, artsy and hip metropole. It is also the only city, like I mentioned, with a functioning and very modern metro system, which could save you a lot on transport. Due to its growing tech and startup culture, it has plenty of co-working spaces, cafes with free Wi-Fi, bars, restaurants, nightclubs, and vibrant neighborhoods. So you should have no problem connecting with other expats and digital nomads and find a good spot to work. It also has a lot of expat and digital nomad Facebook groups to make connections. And if you've had enough of the busy city life, there are plenty of day hikes you can take into the beautiful mountains that surround the city. Popular neighborhoods for digital nomads are Laureles, El Poblado, and Envigado. Let's take a closer look at them. Laureles is a pleasant upper-class residence and very laid back and calm. It is also the most expensive neighborhoods of the three. El Poblado is where you will find the most digital nomads and tourists, and the most co-working spaces and hostels. And Envigado is the least expensive of the three options. Here you can certainly meet more locals than in the other two areas, but there will still be backpackers and digital nomads. There are also multiple green spaces scattered around the neighborhood, as well as cafes and co-working spaces. Let's talk about some fun things to do in Medellin. An absolute must is the visit of the Comuna 13. Take a neighborhood tour or wander around by yourself. The Comuna 13 district used to be one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the world, but now it is actually a hip and fun place full of color, with impressive graffitis on the wall, music and dance performances every day. You can take the metro cable up to get a stunning view of the city on your way there. For some green space and another beautiful view, you could go to Parque Arvi, which is half an hour from El Poblado and also accessible by public transport. First you have to take the metro, then the cable car. Next on the list is Bogota, the capital. Bogota is not only Colombia's capital, it is also its largest city. It is one of, if not the most expensive city in Colombia. It is a huge metropole with fancy restaurants, cafes, bars, nightclubs, museums, and everything one would actually expect from a huge capital. It is located in the Andes, which means that it lies at an altitude of 2,640 meters or 8,661 feet. So prepare to be a little out of breath when you first arrive. It also has a beautiful historic old town that is absolutely worth a visit. Popular neighborhoods in Bogota include La Candelaria, where you can enjoy living amidst beautiful historic colonial buildings, wander on cobblestone streets, and eat in local restaurants. Chapinero, which is one of the more wealthy neighborhoods in Bogota, and where you can find giant shopping malls as well as green spaces like the Parque del Chico. Another favorite local spot is Parque 93. Here you can hang out with the locals, or you could take the cable car up to Montserrat for a beautiful view. For a day trip, you should absolutely visit the stunning Salt Cathedral. This is an underground Roman Catholic church which was built within the tunnels of a salt mine 200 meters or 660 feet underground in a halite mountain near the city of Zipaquirá. Colombia's third largest city is Cali, and Cali is the capital of salsa. Cali is also a more budget-friendly option in Colombia and will allow you to experience the passionate Colombian culture for rhythm and dance. It is definitely a must-do if you are interested in salsa dancing, either as a complete newbie or as an advanced dancer. The city is just full of dance clubs with anyone willing to take you for a spin. Cali is also home to a large Afro-Colombian community. The cost of living here is comparably low. Part of the reason for that might be that Cali used to have a high level of crime. But like the rest of Colombia, this has improved drastically over the years. Nevertheless, you should of course always keep the safety precautions in mind that we talked about. Cali is located by the River Cauca in the Cauca Valley. To the west of the city, you will find beautiful mountain views that offer a lot of possibilities for people who enjoy spending time in nature. Aside from its beautiful nature, the Cauca Valley is also known for its sugarcane production. So if you always wanted to know how the sugar makes it into your favorite sweet treat, you could visit Cali's Sugarcane Museum or even a sugarcane farm. And if you'd like to leave the city for a day trip, then you should absolutely visit San Agustin, which is famous for the San Agustin Archaeological Park. This impressive UNESCO World Heritage Site contains the largest collection of religious monuments and megalithic sculptures in Latin America and is considered the world's largest necropolis. Moving to the north, let's take a look at Cartagena, which is located by the Caribbean Sea. Cartagena is a place for digital nomads who would like some city vibes, but are also true water sport, beach life, and diving enthusiasts. It's known for its beautiful colonial buildings, glittering blue water, and dream sandy beaches. Like other smaller cities on this list, the cost of living here is still relatively low, since it has not been discovered by too many digital nomads yet. This is fantastic if you'd like to live a calmer life and dive deeper into authentic Colombian culture and feeling of life. But unfortunately, of course, it has its downsides as well. The expat and digital nomad community is not as big as in some of the bigger metropoles. However, it is growing as the city gains popularity. This might make it harder to make connections, and unfortunately, there are not many co-working spaces available yet, so this might be more suitable for digital nomads who are used to working from their home base or cafes. Aside from its beautiful beaches, Cartagena also offers a really stunning old town. It's called Centro and has a bustling restaurant and bar scene. The old town is surrounded by an impressive wall, which was built in the 1600s to protect the city from pirate raids. Well, these are by no means all the beautiful places you could live in Colombia, but I hope that they give you a taste so you can see what's available and get a feel for if this city or this country might be for you and where you might want to start your stay in Colombia. So let's move on to some other fun day trips and excursions before we get into how to stay in Colombia. One place you should absolutely visit is the beautiful city of Guatapé. Guatapé is actually quite a small town and it's only 2 hours from Medellin, so technically you could do this as a day trip, but it is definitely worth staying a couple of nights too. When in Guatapé, you must absolutely climb El Peñón. It'll cost you about $5 and on the top you can buy some refreshments while enjoying the view. If you come early in the day, it will be a lot less crowded and you will be rewarded with a view of Guatapé's lake landscape, with emerald green water making its way past even greener landscape in a beautiful organic way. Like so many places in Colombia, Guatapé also has a really stunning city center. Basically, it looks like straight out of a Disney movie, bursting with color, little shops and cafes lining the street with souvenir shops, colorful houses, and umbrellas hanging from ropes gently swinging in the wind. Another thing you should absolutely do, particularly if you are a coffee lover, is to visit a coffee farm from Salento. Some of them will even allow you to stay overnight. This will give you an opportunity to see how your coffee actually ends up in your cup, and the owners will give you a really interesting tour. Now, since I've talked about Colombia's biodiversity, of course we can't leave this video without a visit to the Amazon rainforest. A good starting point for Amazon rainforest excursions is Leticia, which is where Colombia borders Peru and Brazil, right by the Amazon River. Here you will have plenty of ecotourism offerings, learning about the Amazon, its animal and its indigenous people. In the southwest, you will find Tierra Dentro National Park, which I've already mentioned. It is an archaeological site famous for over 100 underground tombs dating back to 10,000 BC. They were left here by the ancient pre-Columbian culture of Tierra Abajo. Reserve a couple of days in the national park if you want to hike around all the tombs. Well, now that I've given you a thorough introduction to Colombia, I hope that you've gotten a feeling for whether or not this place is for you. So let's move on to the visa details to see what options you have. Like I said, first let's clear up some common misconceptions. I've seen many YouTube videos that state that the Colombian Digital Nomad Visa is valid for 2 years. This is kind of true, it is valid for 2 years, but you're only allowed to stay 6 months. So you can use your visa for 2 years, but you're only allowed to stay 6 months in the country. This is why, straight off the bat, I have to say, I don't think the Digital Nomad Visa is as beneficial as many had hoped. Actually, there are 100 countries that are allowed to stay in Colombia for 6 months on a tourist visa without any form of Digital Nomad Visa. So unless you're not part of one of those countries, or Colombia gets a lot stricter with their tourist visa like Mexico has, I don't think the Digital Nomad Visa is your choice. In that case, you should probably just come on a tourist visa. That being said, let's look at the details anyways, because like in the case with Mexico, requirements might change. Or again, you might need a Digital Nomad Visa because you cannot get the tourist visa. As I said, the validity of the visa is 2 years, but it only allows you to stay in the country for 180 days. It is considered a Visitor V visa. This is important for you because that's what you're gonna have to choose when you apply for it online. As with all Digital Nomad visas, you must be employed or self-employed outside of Colombia, so you don't take work away from the locals. You will need a photocopy of your passport showing the first page of your passport and all your biometrical data, a proof of legal entry, meaning a photocopy of your passport showing your last legal entry stamp to Colombia, should you have one, a letter from a foreign company. This could be in English or Spanish and could either be by your employer or by somebody who is your client. This letter should indicate the relationship that you are in, so as in kind of proving that, for example, these people are your clients. And if you are an entrepreneur, you will need a motivational letter in which you explain the nature of your business, as well as the hopes that you have in terms of finances and human resources for your business. You will also need bank statements to prove that you have enough money, and the income requirements are 3 times the legal minimum wage. I have found different numbers here ranging from $750 to $900 US. Either way, this is a lot cheaper than most digital nomad visas. And this also means that this number is subject to change should the minimum wage in Colombia change. So keep that in mind if you watch, particularly if you watch this video at a later time. Furthermore, you will as always need health insurance and a passport picture. Like I mentioned, the visa application will happen online and I will link it down below. And the application will cost you $52 US. It is an easy visa to apply for. And one benefit that I didn't mention so far is that with a digital nomad visa, you can open a bank account, which you can't on a tourist visa. However, I think a much easier way for digital nomads to handle their finances, especially if you don't plan to stay in a country for multiple years, is to open a multi-currency account, like for example from Wise. This is a bank account that allows you to hold, pay in and handle several different currencies at a time, and that would help you get around the whole hassle and problem of having to open a bank account in Colombia. So if you can get a tourist visa, I think that actually might be a lot less hassle for you. But keep in mind, I am not a lawyer and this is only my personal opinion. And if you are looking for a country in the region that will allow you to stay for longer, up to a year, check out this video here about the Digital Nomad Visa to Panama, or my video about the Digital Nomad Visa to Costa Rica. Or if you want to stay somewhere absolutely visa-free and indefinitely, check out this video down here to a very special island that gives you the opportunity to do just that. With that said, thank you for today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.